Hello everyone and welcome to the tutorial number 21 in a series of video tutorials for Java programming. Don't forget to click on the subscribe button and click on the bell icon as well to stay up to date with every tutorial I upload on my channel. So in the last tutorial I discussed a little bit about the this break statement, control statement, and I discussed about if, else, if. Okay, then after that I discussed about for loop, nested loops, etc. So in this tutorial, I'm going to just continue from where I left off in the last tutorial. So in the last tutorial, actually, I forgot to speak about this particular jump statement. So return statement, I'm going to talk about return statement. All right. So as I said in one of my previous tutorials itself, that this return statement it is basically to exit from particular function. For example, if I write return statement here, okay, it is going to exit from the function, and actually it is not needed. Actually here you can see return is unnecessary as it is the last statement in a void method. Okay, actually in a void method return statement is not mandatory, it is not necessary. Okay, so let us see how exactly this statement is going to work. So first of all, I am going to define if I equals 1. Okay, obviously you will say that I is not defined, so I am going to declare I it is equals to 1. All right, then after that I am going to simply put return over here. Then after that I am going to put system.out.println, and here I am going to say that this line will never be executed. This line will not execute. Okay, so something like that. So now what is going to happen, what is going to be the output is that since there is a return statement in this if block, okay, if case, so because of that reason, whenever this return statement is encountered, the program it is going to exit the main function, and you know very well that when I exit the main function, the termination of the program is going to stop right there. So if I press this play, this run button right now, nothing is going to happen. It is not going to print this thing. Okay, so nothing is going to happen. It is not going to show any kind of output. So let's wait for that. And yeah, it is not showing any output because it is encountering this return statement right here, and because of this reason, it is not going to print this line. Okay, so if you want to print this line, then you need to actually remove this thing. Okay, you need to remove this thing, and then only it is going to print this line. So what is the meaning of the return statement is that it is going to exit from the current function. Okay, so that is the meaning of that. Now this line it is showing. Okay, so what is going to happen, if I am going to write a return statement without a if statement, it is going to create a problem. It is going to give an error. In fact, it is going to say unreachable statement. Why it is saying unreachable statement is that as soon as this return statement is encountered, the termination of the program, termination of this function is ending right here. Okay, so program it is never going to come to reach this particular line. Okay, so because of this reason only, it is saying that it is unreachable code. Okay, so now let us create one another function here so that we will understand it even more better. So public static, let us say void example, let us say. So now I am creating this particular function here, and now what I'm going to do is, now you may wonder why I've created this function as static. Okay, this function has to be static because there is a certain rule in Java and a certain programming languages also, even in C Sharp also this language is rule is there, that a static function it can access only static members, okay, and static variables without creating an object. Okay, so I can definitely access example also with a but I have to create an object if I make it non-static. Okay, but if it is static, I don't need to create an object. I can simply do it, I can simply call it like this, and it will work. Okay, so here what I'm going to do is I'm just going to print something. Okay, system.out.println before return. Okay, I'm going to write before return. So I think then after that I'm going to write this return statement. Okay, so obviously you need to put it inside some if else block. So let us say if I int I equals 1. I think this is going to work. This is not going to work. So like, that is not a issue. I can create this variable here int I equals to 1. So then after that I'm going to remove the integer part here. So if I equals 1, then return. Then after that I'm going to write system dot out or dot println after return. So what is going to be the output is it is going to print before return, okay, in example, but it is never going to print after return. And I am going to print this, one another additional statement here. So I am going to just print like back and main method so that you will understand how it is working. So back and main method. Now I'm pressing this run button here. So let us see what happens. So yeah, it is printing out before running example. It is printing out this statement. Okay, this particular statement it is printing. Then after that, this statement is never getting executed because the termination of the program occurs right here in the 14th line. Okay, so this 15th line will never get executed. So after the 14th line, the control it will get passed to this particular point. Then after that, the 8th line will get executed. Okay, so that is why it is printing before run in example. Then after that, it is printing back in main method. So that is how this particular return statement is going to work. All right. So now one additional thing which I told is you cannot write return statement in a for loop or a if loop or a, while loop or like that. There's a reason for that. Like for example, if I write for statement in a if I write if statement in a for loop, let us see what happens. I less than 8 or something, I less than 10, I plus plus. So basically I'm trying to print numbers from 1 to 10. Alright, system.out.println I. Then after that I'm writing return over here. Okay, so now you can see what is going to happen. Already it is giving a highlighting for statement. It is not looping. Here it is giving another warning. Condition is always true. Here also it is this value change. It is never used. The reason why this warning is coming because this loop it is going to execute exactly once. So it is going to print only 0. Okay, it is I is 0 here. Okay, it is going to print only 0, and that's the end of that. So you should never use a return statement in a for loop or any kind of loop, whether you are talking about a while loop or whether I'm talking about do while loop, any kind of loop. You should not use the return statement in that, otherwise it will create a logical error. All right. So similarly, in a while loop also you should not do it. Of course, you can write it inside if. Like for example, I write I equals 5, then I'm putting return. So what is going to happen? It is going to print from 0 to 5. Okay. Then it is not going to create a logical error actually, but it all depends whether you this is really the output which you wanted or not. So, but you should always remember this return statement. It should be always in a conditional statement. Conditional means it should either be inside if or it should be inside else. Sorry. So otherwise it will create a logical error. Okay, so this is how this return statement works. So now I am going to create object. Okay, in order to create an object, I am not going to create a separate class or something. Actually there is one additional class already created here, but I am not going to create object of this class. I am going to create object of the current class. All right, so let us create how I am going to create an object. So let us say that I am going to create some non-static variables here. Like let us say I'm going to create public int I, j, something ijk or something. Now I want to access this values ijk. Okay, I cannot access this values ijk because they are non-static. I cannot access this without creating an object first. If I try to write I here, okay, it is not going to work. I cannot write I equals to 0. It will give an error. It will say a non-static field cannot be referenced from a static context. So in order to do this, first of all, I need to create an object. So how to create the object? So if you remember the syntax properly, the syntax was nothing but the tutorials. First of all, I need to create the reference. So this is the reference initially. All right. So this is the reference. Then after creating the reference, I need to write t equals to new tutorial. So this is going to create that particular object. This new tutorial is going to create the object. Okay. Obviously, you can write this two statements in a single line. Like you can write it like this. That is up to you. So, so this is how we are going to create an object. Then after that, we can access this ijk. So how to access ijk is very simple. First of all, I just need to put t. Then after that, dot operator. Then after that, I. Okay, and j, and then k. Now you will be wondering how I'm getting this clone method, equals method, hash code, toString, get class, notify, and all the other methods. So all these methods are already defined in the object class, and I am able to access these methods only due to inheritance. So inheritance is the concept which we'll be discussing very soon. So right now you don't need to worry about those methods right now. So that is how that particular thing is showing t dot clone, t dot equals, etc. So right now we just need to worry about how to access ijk. So t dot I equals to, let us say, 25, 24. T dot j equals to, let us say, 78. Okay. And after that, I'm just going to simply print out these two numbers, t dot I plus, then after that, t dot j. Now the reason why I'm inserting a double quote is here is because there is a reason for that. If I don't insert this double quote here, what is going to happen is it is going to add its 24 and 78, and the answer will come out to be 102. So because of this reason, I'm appending a string over here, so that 24 plus string, then after that additional string is coming, then after that 78 is going to be the output. If I don't do this, then the output will be 102, because both of these are integers. So integers, they will get added with each other. Okay, so the output is going to be 102, and that is not the output which we want. We wanted to print out these two numbers, right? So if you want to print these two numbers, you need to be very careful. You need to first add a string also, then after that, this is the string. Okay, so because of this reason, these two numbers, they will not get added with each other. So that is how that thing is going to work. Now assigning object reference variables. So now let us create another let us create another reference, tutorial t1. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put t1 equals to t. So basically what is happening now is t1, it is pointing to t. Okay, so now what is going to happen, I'm going to put t equals to null now. So at this stage, if I print out system.out.println t1, at this stage, if I'm going to print the value of t1, it is not going to be null. It is going to be some kind of a weird, gibberish kind of thing. So I think it will be tutorial at the rate something. Tutorial at the rate, this gibberish value. This is actually hexadecimal value. So that this is the memory space, and it is not going to be null. All right, and you can even edit this particular thing. So that thing can be done by overriding the toString method. So that thing I'll be discussing later on. So right now, what is happening is, this t1, it is pointing to something. Okay, And if I remove t1 here and if I write t here, t is also going to be the same value. So let us, for clarity, let us just copy paste this thing. And here I am going to print the t1 as well as t. So both of them are going to be the same value. Okay, because t1 is pointing to t and t is pointing to this particular object. So both of them are going to be the same value. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is here I made t as null. Okay, so obviously if I going to print t, it is going to point to null. But this t1 it is going to point to this but same memory location. So let us print out this two things once again. So if I'm going to print out these two things, first value which is going to get printed is t1. Okay, so this t1 it is going to point to the same memory location. Okay, but t it is pointing to null because here I made it t as null. So that is how that is the concept of this assigning object reference variables. Here I can even assign t1 to t's. That means that t1 it is pointing to new tutorial. Basically, it is not going to point to t. No, it is not going to point to t. It is going to point to new tutorial, because if it had pointed to t when I made it null, when I made the t as null, t1 should become null, right? But t1 is not becoming null because t1 it is pointing to this particular object. So because of this reason, when I'm making t as null, t1 it is not becoming null. It is still pointing to something. Okay. So now let us do execute this one more time, so that all the confusion will be removed. So here you can see that I have removed that two lines in before t equals null. So now you can see that clearly t1 it is pointing to that particular memory location. Okay, and the value in t1 it is not getting changed because I'm making t as null. No, it is not going to change because t1 it is referring to this particular thing, and only t will become null. In much the same manner, what is going to happen is if I make t1 as null, okay, if I make t1 as null, then what is going to happen is the value of t is going to remain the same. Okay, it is going to point to this memory location, but the value of t1 will become null. Okay, so that is how this particular concept is going to work. So now you can see here t1 has become null, but t it is still pointing to that memory location. So that thing which you need to keep in mind. So just because you put t1 equals to t and you made t1 equals to, sorry, not t1, if you make t equals to null here, that doesn't mean that t1 is going to become null here. Okay, so that is one thing which we need to keep in mind. Then after that, let us try to return a value. Okay, so returning value is basically for, let us say, I want to calculate the square of a number, let us say. So here I'm doing public int square. So square of a number, then after that I'm writing int I. Now you can see right here that this program, it is not going to execute. It is already giving a warning at the right hand side, one error, 5 warnings. So the reason why it is giving a warning is that the return type of this particular method, it is int, it is not void. So because of this reason, you need to return a value. So how I am going to return a value? Return I multiplied by I. Okay, and you should always ensure that this return statement, it is always followed by the integer value. Okay, here if I am writing the return type of the value, return type of the method is int, then this should be an integer value. If the return type of the method is double, then this should be a double value. Similarly, if this particular return type it is, let us say, character, then this should be a character, and so on and so forth. Okay, otherwise it is not going to work. Okay, obviously you can convert the integer to long. Here I can type long here. Okay, and it is going to work ultimately. Okay, but here it is saying again, it is giving a kind of a warning that is implicitly cached to long, but ultimately it is only giving a warning. It is not going to give any kind of error. So that is, these are certain things which you need to remember. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put system dot out dot println. Now I'm going to treat this particular function as if it is a variable. That is the beauty of this return type. Because I made this function as an integer data type. So because of this reason, I can make this function as a variable, kind of variable. I can treat it as a variable. So I can write. Obviously, this is a non-static method, so I'm making it static first. Then after that, I can write square inside this. Then after that, I'm going to write 5, let us say. So now if I press this run button, then it is going to print the value of 5 square, which is 25. Okay. Similarly, here if I type, let us say I'm typing 55, then it is going to print the square of 55, which is 3025, 3025. All right. So that is going to be the output, and so that was the all about return values. So whenever you're typing anything apart from void here if I type void, it will give an error. Okay, it is saying cannot return a value from a method with a void return result type. So you need to keep these things in mind, that if I'm making the return type of the method as void, it cannot return any value. But if it is anything apart from void, then it has to return a value. So then after that, I'm just going to talk about constructors. Then I think we'll call it a day for this particular tutorial. So now I'm just going to talk about constructors. So if you remember the concept of constructors, constructors are nothing but then their name is same as the class name. All right. So this is a parameter. This is the, sorry, not parameterized. This is a default constructor. Okay. So this is a default constructor, and actually you don't even need to define this. Why? You can see it right here. Here I'm writing, if you remember just a few minutes ago, I wrote new tutorial here. Okay. Now that tutorial, I have removed that particular constructor, but still it is not giving any error. Okay, it is not giving any error because compiler by default it is going to define the default constructor implicitly. Okay, you don't need to define the default constructor implicitly. The compiler will do it automatically for you. Okay, but however, one thing which you need to keep in mind is, if you have defined any constructor yourself, like for example here I am defining a constructor tutorial. Okay, any parameterized constructor, like I'm defined a tutorial here. See here, I'm not even writing void here. Okay, if I try to write void here, it will give an error. Okay, so let us see what happens. Void tutorial. So what error it is giving? It is never used, and it is saying that it is a method. So if I have to make this method as a constructor, then I need to remove this particular void from it. Always remember, constructors, they don't have any return type in front of them. Not even void is allowed. Why even void is illegal in case of constructor. Okay. So now if I write int I, let us say I'm creating a parameterized constructor. Now you can see that the error is come into the picture. The reason is because when I define a constructor myself, okay, like parameterized constructor, then the compiler it is going to remove that default constructor. Okay, so obviously these things may look a little confusing, but with practice you will understand all those things. If I remove this particular constructor, okay, custom constructor, if I remove this particular constructor, it is not going to give any error. It is going to work because compiler it is going to once again add the definition of the default constructor. But however, if I define this constructor, okay, myself, then compiler it is going to remove its own definition of the default constructor, and then what is going to happen is it is going to give an error. So you need to write tutorial 5 here. So you need to pass a parameter. So if I'm passing a parameter, that means I am going to call this particular constructor. All right, in much the same manner, the same concept is going to apply for the other things as well. Like let us say that Now you can see here that I've removed that parameterized constructor. Then once again the compiler, it has defined the default constructor. So that is how it's going to work. So I have discussed about parameterized constructor. I have discussed parameterized constructor was those constructor which accepted the parameter. I discussed about default constructor also. Okay. Then I'm going to discuss about copy constructor also. So copy constructor is nothing but tutorial. Then it is going to accept tutorial. Okay, it is going to accept object of the same class. So this is a copy constructor. Okay, so IJK. Now this is where this concept comes into the picture. Here if I write I, then it is not going to give any error actually. So because I am using a t over here, t dot j, then k equals t dot k. So you can see what exactly is happening here. This is a copy constructor. It is copying, the value of I from t to, the current instance. Okay. So same applies for j, same applies for k. So that is how this copy constructor is going to work. Okay. And here if I write that this keyword, it is not going to give any error, because always remember one thing, this refers to the current instance. Okay, so I can write this, but this keyword is not necessary. It is not mandatory to write this keyword over here. So I have discussed about declaring the object, assigning object reference variables, returning the value. I have talked about constructors. So I talked about this keyword also. Okay. So only thing left is parameterized methods, but I discussed a little bit about it also. But nevertheless, I'll talk about in the next tutorial. Then after that, I'll talk about finalize. So this keyword, it always refers to the current instance. Okay, so and this keyword, it can never appear on the right hand side. That is also one thing which you need to keep in mind. I cannot write like this, like t dot k equals to this dot k. Will this work? Actually it is working, but you cannot modify this keyword. You cannot modify this equals to, let us say new tutorial, new tutorial. Okay, so actually it is only going to cause a recursion actually. So this is not going to work. It is going to create an error. Okay, you cannot write this kind of statement. Okay, you cannot try to modify this keyword. Okay, so this is not going to work. So that's all I'm going to talk about in this particular tutorial. Okay, so in the next tutorial I'll be talking in much detail about this parameterized methods. I'll be talking about the finalize method as well. So then after that we will talk about recursion also. So next tutorial also I'll be taking you to the IDE. And so if you have any kind of questions in this particular tutorial, then don't hesitate to post in the comment section below, and I will get back to you when I can. And if you have any, if you like this particular tutorial, then don't forget to like, share and subscribe. So till then, next tutorial, bye.